BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
We'll start with Rangers, who have finally installed a new permanent head coach in the shape of the former Southampton manager Russell Martin. His appointment ended several weeks of speculation as to who would succeed Philippe Clement, who was sacked in February. The Belgian has kept his counsel since departing Ibrox, but spoke to BBC Scotland in his first interview on the very morning Martin was appointed. And I began by asking about the challenges Martin would face.
A lot of things changed in the club this last year or year and a half, over and over again. So I hope, because that's the main thing that's necessary in the club, that there comes stability to work in a good way with the players, with the staff, with everybody in the club, to have a consistent story. I think that's the big part that the club has been lacking for years already. And I hope that the new owners can bring that for the club and for the manager also, for the players.
I think there seemed to be a real desire, a real willingness, as you say, to have that stability when you were going through a difficult period towards the end. I think, the board stuck with you at a time when some people thought you would be sacked. But ultimately, I guess it just didn't work out for you. But do you think the squad that is there right now, does it need a lot of improvement to challenge Celtic for the league and other titles?
Yeah, I think you need to go back to 1 year ago. What was the story of the club at that moment? So the story was that the club was not financially sustainable anymore, like they were spending 1 year, 8 years before. So that was the story of the transfer window of last year. That's been said to me, to the recruitment team also, that the money, that there was not fresh investment in the club, but the money available for the transfers would be the sale of players. So the amount you can get out of that was not much at the end, because the squad was with a lot of older players. So people didn't want to pay anymore for them. 6 players were end of contract, so they were left for free. And there were not a lot of young talents that were sellable, because not many people were interested. So in the end, there was not much money coming into the club. The other parts to make transfers was to lower the wages. And the amount that was lowered, that could have been used in the transfer market. So it's more than 25% of the wages that's been lowered in that period, in the budget. And that money was used to build the squad. And the idea was, and that was clearly said in the board, that the club needed 3-4 transfer windows to get at the level of Celtic, because you have to gain money again by bringing young players in, developing them, making them better, selling them, and like this, getting money to make the squad better and better in the next 2-3 years. That's the idea how the squad was built. And I think in that sense that good things happened. Raskin made a really good evolution. He's really interesting in the transfer window now in the market. A lot of clubs are interested in him. But you have others also like Jefte, Igaman, also Clinton Asiala, who came for free, will have a better value. So those are things that's been made better in the club now. Of course, there are again players like Czerny leaving the club. We had the same situation with Abdallah Sima last season. So the thing with making loans with players, we talked about that also. The idea was to reduce it every year with one player less on loan, because at the end you're working for other clubs. But I think the positive thing is that the owners come in now and they say they're going to spend money and they're going to put money into the club to make transfers. It's necessary to close the gap. You need money also for that.
I seem to remember maybe about a year ago, I think it was, but there seemed to be a shift in the message you were getting, I think possibly from the board, where what you thought you were going to have to spend in the summer had changed, and that led to the change in focus that you're talking about there, maybe less money to bring players of a certain quality in. Did you feel misled, or was that a little bit unfair?
No, it's not misled, but if they say there's no new investment, I understand now why. Because at the end, some people were already thinking about selling the club and selling their stocks. So that was not clear in that moment, that people wanted to sell their stocks and their partnership with the club. So that created also the situation that there was only a budget about selling players and using that budget, or lowering the wages and using that budget to make transfers. The sell of players was really low in the end of August. So there was not much money to spend or to do good things for the club. So everybody had to be inventive, and also with the idea to bring the young players in with an added value. And I spoke about a few of them. Diamande is also one of those guys. The club has worked good the past year in that way. There are now 4 or 5 players with the value to sell.
You talked about needing 3 or 4 transfer windows to...
No, I did talk about that. That was the board who told me that. It's not something for me. And that's also maybe in the end, one of the most difficult things. I've always been the messenger of what the board has told me, what was necessary for the club, and I agreed with that. But I've been the sole messenger of that story, and at the end, people think it's my story. No, of course, I prefer, if there's money in the club to spend, to get more experienced players, to get better squad, of course. But I fully engaged in the story that we could close the gap in 2-3 years working in this way. I'm also convinced of that was possible.
But this is the problem, isn't it? A club like Rangers, where if you're second, you're last almost. You know, that if you're not really up there challenging Celtic, then people will not give you the time and patience, which Russell Martin was actually asked about today. Will you expect time and patience because it's such a demanding environment, isn't it?
Yes, but it depends also if the people who are leading the club, if they see if the project is working well or not. What is the idea? If you don't spend money, you cannot close the gap. So we had, with good work, with getting young players, with making them better, we could make money. But if you don't spend the money, you will not close the gap. Or you need to build it by making young players better, but you need time for that. So there's not another road to take. There were also a lot of positive things, like the 8th position in the Europa League, what was an overachievement, but indeed domestically there was an underachievement. Second place, I think it's normal in the situation, the financial situation the club was, but it's not good enough. But you need patience then to build it, or you need to spend money. It's one of the two. Without one of the two, it's an impossible job.
In terms of that, the contrast between some of the overachieving, as you say, in Europe, and the fact that you were actually able to, on your day, be better than Celtic at times, and yet you look at some of the results against, inverted commas, smaller clubs. Do you accept that, in that regard, that, you know, a failure to perhaps break down teams who would sit in, for example?
I don't agree with that, with the problem of the breaking down teams, because in moments it was really good, but in moments not. It's more a story about consistency. It's more a story about doing it every 3 days. It's more a story about having this demand physically, mentally, to be ready for that every 3 days. In the end, the squad was not ready for that. There were too many players who never done this in their life before. It was the first time. And we paid that cash. In my period, also in the period after me, because it's not that afterwards the results became better. That's also not the case. So it's a learning curve, but it's a normal learning curve also. It was the same for me. The first year I played European football, my body had to adapt to that. My mind had to adapt to that. And it's the same with every player. So I'm sure that a lot of players who are in the squad now, who are very young, learned a lot of lessons this season that will make them stronger next season. And that will help them.
You mentioned it within that answer about mentality as well as physicality. And some of the players' mentality has been questioned by numerous people. Was that an issue? Especially, I look back to your first season when you did so well initially, and yet just when it seemed like you were in pole position, there was a stumble. Did that come down to mentality as well, do you think?
No, because not about, it depends what you mean with mentality. Because it's a very wide used word also. You can speak about a lot of things. It was never about not wanting to win, not wanting to work. I cannot say one thing about that. In 1 year and a half Rangers, the players worked always really hard. They wanted to give everything. But there are some stories, if you look back, indeed the first season, nobody in Scotland expected Rangers to come back and to be in a title race. In the moments when we came in October, the players did it. But at the end, we lost the game in Ross County, and 3 days later, we lost points against Dundee. If I look back, 2 players who were not good in those 2 games, they left at the end of the season on a free transfer. They were at that moment busy also talking with other teams, with their agents, about their future, about all those things. Probably, and maybe, that had an effect on them. They didn't want to become champion. No, for sure not. They wanted to become champion and they wanted to give everything. But the situation to be end of contract and that moment of the season was also not a good one. So you need to see as a club also that, and that's also about stability, consistency, that you don't come in these situations too much with in the important moments of the season, that everything is also clear, that the players can focus solely on football. It's a very important part, and I think it played a part in that end of the season in those 2 games where the shift was made in the championship. And it stays a very pity thing that we could not win this championship coming out of a position where nobody believed that the team could come back.
What are you most proud of in your time at Ibrox? And on the flip side of that, what regrets do you have?
Most proud, there's only one thing important, that's winning things. So that's winning the League Cup. Biggest regrets then maybe that's the other side, being close in this first season for the title and getting it over the line. And also in the cup final last year in the League Cup, this season also, not being able to win these things, although we were in the 2 games really close, very close. And I had a bad feeling after this League Cup also, with all the circumstances, how we lost it. And at the end, I think it was a vital one in all the story. If we would have won this, there would have been more patience with fans also. And the board could have stayed much calmer than in this situation.
I mean, I suppose that the takeover now does look like that it will mean there are more funds available for the new coach. Does it go without saying that you would have liked the opportunity to be part of this new phase in the club's history?
Yeah, of course. I love the club, still do. And I want the best for this club. It's a pity that the story stopped, that the board didn't have the patience or maybe listen too much to some fans, because there are other clubs in the world where there is a difficult moment and everybody sticks together because everybody knows the story, how the work is done inside the building, and they continue, and they are successful afterwards. I'm very confident, and I believe really hard that it could have been done in the 3-4 windows. What we talked about, close the gap, and that there was a good development of several players. But okay, the decision is made, and you need to accept it. It was hard in that moment, and now it's for me important to look forward. But I will always look back to Rangers with a lot of love in my heart.
Is there any advice that you could offer Russell Martin or any manager going into a club like Rangers?
No, I think everybody needs to write his own story. But the only thing I can say is just enjoy it every day. It's an amazing club. It has amazing fans. It's an amazing place to work and to play, and enjoy it.
Yeah, I just want to ask you, just go back to that, the player trading model that has been discussed at Rangers, and you've discussed it as well. I think you mentioned Nico Raskin earlier on, among other players. Is it now the time for someone like him, if a good offer comes in, as much as it would weaken Rangers in the short term, does the club have to be more clinical almost in that sense, and accept good offers rather than holding on to someone like Raskin for too long?
The one thing that we discussed clearly last season is that you cannot come to a situation anymore that good players go for free. Like it was with Murillos, with Kent, with Lundstrom, and others in the past. So one moment you need to make a decision, or you keep a player, or you sell him for a good price, and you get a new player in. It's also what Celtic did really well all those years. O'Reilly left, and they took 2 new players in to replace him and to build on a squad, and also to create depth in the squad. That was also the idea to do with this squad. I think the good job is done, that several players are now interested in the market. Several teams are interested for the players to pay good amounts of money for that, and the club needs to build with that. Or it has to be with the new owners that they say, okay, we don't do it now because we have enough money and we keep the players.
Can I ask you as well about Cyril Dessers, who is a guy who's scored a lot of goals in his 2 seasons at Rangers, and yet there are still some supporters who are not convinced by him. Perhaps he misses some good chances, of course, but at the same time scores some fabulous goals. What was it about Cyril that, as a manager, that you liked and you wanted to persist with him?
I think Cyril gets abused like nobody else in the club, or on the pitch at least. But he always was there to work hard, to do everything for the club every day, every training, every game. And also in this period in his career, he never scored as many goals that he did at Rangers in the past teams that he played. So in the end, he performed really well with his qualities, and he was top scorer, I think, at the end of the season. This season, so of course, fans always want more. I think Cyril, if he would have played in a team who won the league, then he would be for everybody a good player. But if you don't win the league, then for the fans, you are not a good player anymore. So that's life at Rangers, and that's also the life that fans can have. It's only as a club you need to see through things, and you need to look at things rationally and not emotionally.
And I suppose maybe the same is kind of true about James Tavernier. He's another player who has given a lot to Rangers, but at the same time, as captain, I suppose he also was coming under quite severe criticism at times. How important was he? What kind of job did he do for you as a captain, especially I suppose when times were tough?
It's the same story. If you're a captain in a winning team, then you're an amazing captain. If you're captain in a losing team, you're not a good captain. That's life of being a captain or being a manager. I think it's not an easy job, but he gets used to it in a way. And he gave his best and he gave everything for the club, and he tried to help all the players in the team also to adapt to the environment of Rangers and what fans are expecting of the players.